Anthropic, one of the biggest competitors to OpenAI, just released their latest Claude 3.5 Sonnet model, which is taking the internet ablaze. All the accounts on Twitter started going crazy, posting threads about all the different crazy examples of what 3.5 Sonnet can do. And some of them are pretty wild. And it all relies on this new thing called the artifacts feature. And essentially what the artifacts thing is it allows you to ask Claude through prompting to generate code, and then it will be able to actually render that code right in the screen where it's being generated in the first place. So you don't worry about copying and pasting the code out into another platform to be able to then run the code. You can just run it right there in the platform. And this is what's really cool. You can run fully functional web apps from a single prompt. So there's this one thread where this guy, Alex, on Twitter, looks like he's a developer at Anthropic. He says, in the lead up to Claude 3.5 Sonnet launch, we created a Slack channel at Anthropic to share our favorite Claude generated artifacts. I scrolled back through and found 7 of my favorite things that Claude had made. First one is WebGL particle simulators. Not even sure what I'm looking at, but this is cool. Really good mermaid diagrams. Skeuomorphic letters. So I guess this is generating an image or an SVG of text. Solar system simulations. So I look at something like this with an application for school and learning, because these are things that I had to generate in, computer science classes in high school, where you're generating, very simple game. This is a really good example. A simple doodle jump game. I had to make this exact game in computer science class in high school. And now you can do it in a one-shot prompt with any of these AI models, essentially. And Claude 3.5 Sonnet seems to be one of the best models that is generating these games very quickly without any mistakes, comparably to something that took me weeks to make when I was in high school. Another really cool example that I've seen is how Claude can play sound using 11 Labs. And I actually saw this from another thread where you can actually import or paste in the 11 Labs API code, and then it will be able to generate an app that allows you to then enter in what you want to hear, and then it will play back that sound. So for example, in this artifact, it's generating a sound effects generator web app, and then it's prompting the user to enter a description of a sound, and then it's going to generate that sound effect, and that sound is played inside this artifact render. Now, obviously an ocean breeze sound, that's not that cool, but the fact that they were able to do this in one shot is insane. And so I started playing around with this. And one of the things that I've been talking with customers about is how their profitability looks when they're trying to sell an AI chatbot or an AI agent to a customer. What is their profit margin? And so I thought it would be pretty cool to make a profit margin calculator that is interactive, and we'll just see kind of what happens here. So I'm creating a profit margin calculator. It's then going to generate the React code, and then it's going to give me a interface that I can actually interact with within 5-10 seconds. So if I put in, there we go. So I can go and I can look at the code, and then I can preview what this code is actually doing, and then I can make changes and updates to this, and then this will render in a different model. In the past, you had to do something like go to W3 schools and then enter in simple HTML code that would then render it. But now you can do this all within one shot, all inside Claude. So for example, I could go in here and say, I want to add in a graph. Let's just see what it does. Now it's going to be an interactive profit margin calculator with a graph. And this is where things are going to get really crazy, because as you work on this and iterate, you'll start to see how we can use these co-pilots to create apps and games and different tutorials and things for ourselves without having to have any serious cost or complications. I could make a game that helps me learn a topic, and then I could just exit out of this window because now the game is over. And I didn't pay anybody to make this game. The AI made it instantly, and it's entirely one-off and perfected for just me. Here's a crazy one, creating a dashboard from Excel sheets. He's now asking it, give it appropriate theme for a desk company. Code is now being rewritten so that the dashboard will now be shown in a different theme. So let's see what it looks like. So now it's updated with a stylistic theme that looks purple. It's got some more stylistic elements. This is the future of programming, being able to have interactive, almost instantaneous dashboards and interfaces that you can use on your own custom data without having to send that data anywhere. It's all right on the LLM that you're using. There's tons of examples of this, and I think Anthropic and Claude 3.5 are going to be one of the biggest things to come of AI in the next little while. So you might be asking yourself, what is so special about this Claude 3.5 Sonnet? Why is it so good? Why is it able to make all these cool different use cases and examples and be able to render all that information right in the window? Well, one of these accounts that finds the prompts was able to figure out what that prompt actually is for Claude 3.5 Sonnet on how artifacts actually work. And it is kind of crazy. And he asks, I have just one question. What kind of arcane magic is AntThinking? And why does Claude totally glitch out when trying to repeat it? And if we scroll through this extremely long prompt, we can see that there are different sections where it calls for AntThinking. And this is really interesting to see because this is not something that you would normally see in a prompt. So I wonder if we just went to Claude and let's just ask it, what is it? What is AntThinking? Interesting. Let's ask GPT. AntThinking refers to the concept of automatic negative thoughts, or ants, which are spontaneous, unhelpful thoughts that can affect your mood, behavior, and overall mental health. These thoughts are often pop up without conscious effort and can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. How does this apply to an LLM prompt? When applying the concept of automatic negative thoughts to an LLM, the focus can be on understanding and addressing negative thought patterns within the text generation process. Recognition of negative patterns, positive reframing, challenging ants, encouraging positive practices. So it looks like it's within the example of what a conversation might be. And this is something that is in a lot of other prompts. So it says, example user query, can you help me create a Python script to calculate the factorial of a number? Assistant response, sure, here's a Python script that calculates the factorial of a number. AntThinking, creating a Python script to calculate factorials meets the criteria for a good artifact. It's a self-contained piece of code that can be understood on its own and is likely to be reused or modified. This is a new conversation, so there are no pre-existing artifacts. Therefore, I'm creating a new artifact. And it just continues. It says the next user query, thanks for the factorial script. Can you modify it to handle invalid input gracefully? And it just continues to go on and on with an example. It almost seems like this entire prompt is just lots of different examples with variations of what they want the assistant to respond with. But then it comes back to this interesting idea of AntThinking. Let's read this further. So assistant response, good point. It's important to handle invalid input to prevent errors. I'll update the script to include an input validation. AntThinking. This request is a direct modification of the existing factorial calculator artifact. It's not a new artifact, but an update to make the script more robust. I'll reuse the factorial calculator identifier to maintain continuity and to show the evolution of our code. Okay, here's an idea. Let's just take this whole thing. Jesus, this is long. Okay, I'm going to GPT, pasting in this in. Explain AntThinking to me within. AntThinking tags are used to document the assistant's thought process when deciding whether to create or update an artifact. This reflective step ensures that the assistant consistently evaluates content against specific criteria for artifact creation. Here's how AntThinking works within the context of prompting. Evaluate the content, criteria for a good or a bad artifact, deciding on an action to create a new artifact or to update an existing artifact, and then the implementation. So an example of AntThinking in action. In this example, the assistant evaluates the Python script, determines if it fits a criteria for a good artifact, and documents this decision process within the AntThinking tags. This ensures a structured approach to artifact creation, maintaining consistency and quality in the content that it generated. So it almost seems like AntThinking is a form of custom functions where it's being told to run a function, which is creating a new artifact. But this is so new. So this is all new to me. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how this evolves over time, because this is definitely a very interesting thing. And obviously it's just taken the internet by storm. AntThinking could also be a way to help the LLM improve the context of prompting within the creation of these artifacts. And when we take this idea of creating artifacts as a form of a custom function, I'm starting to see a future where it's really about how we can limit the amount of hallucinations, and could also be a way to limit the amount of errors that an LLM makes.